Am I all good to kind of take over? Okay, amazing. Let me just share my screen. There it is. So hi everyone. Really nice to sort of see so many people here. Very lovely to have you here with us today. And a very quick agenda for what we have in store today is we're going to do a very quick welcome to introduce you to our amazing speakers today. Afterwards, I'm going to do a quick introduction to pathways to scale and what to think about when choosing one. Then we're going to go on to a panel discussion with the two amazing organizations we have here today, so Amala and Think Zone. And then afterwards, we're going to leave some space for you to ask any questions that you may have. But as I was saying before, and just one thing to note is please feel free to add any questions in the chat as the session is going on, and we are going to try to answer as many as we can at the end. But I was saying before, let's start with a quick round of introductions. So if I could please ask our speakers today to please introduce themselves by sharing their name, organization, and their current role. I am very happy to start. I am Dana, and I am a consultant for Spring Impact. And I'll be leading and moderating the session today. And I'll pass on to our other speakers.
Should we go? Yeah, so we can go. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited about this session. My name is Polly, and I am one of the co-founders and co-executive directors of Amala Education.
And my name is Mia, and I am the other co-founder and co-executive director of Amala Education, and really excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Hi everyone, I'm Itishri and working as at Think Zone as program lead, and just excited for the discussion. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all. So let's get started with our session today. Just one thing I wanted to mention before I start is that I have a stutter actually, so please bear with me throughout the kind of session, and if you would like me to go over anything again, please let me know in the chat. I do not mind at all. All right. So as I'm sure you are all very much aware, in today's world, we are faced with huge problems. And most often, the solutions that we have available, although they may be quite amazing, they usually barely scratch the kind of surface of these problems. This creates the gap between the problems and the solutions that we have available, which is the unmet need. So we at Spring Impact see impact at scale about closing this gap as much as possible. So to give you a very quick introduction to Spring Impact, we were born out of the frustration that some of the best world-changing social innovations that should scale up very often don't. So we are a charity dedicating to scaling social impact. We've worked with more than 300 projects over the past 10 years, and have focused on this challenge of scaling. We are both we are based both in the UK and the US, but have worked with teams all around the world. So the different ways in which we offer this support is through expert consultancy, courses, programs, as well as through our open source toolkit, which provides mission-driven organizations and individuals with resources to navigate their journey to scale, and no matter where you are currently on this journey. So first of all, one word which I have mentioned quite a lot is scale. So this can often feel like a buzzword, and what we have found in the past 10 years is that organizations very often confuse scale with growth. So we actually see them differently in two fundamental ways. So we see growth as growing the size of your organization, or even growing the reach of your solution. So just doing more of what you are already doing. Whereas scale is really focusing on tackling social problems at scale. So they're focused on serving a problem rather than growing a particular organization or a particular solution. And the second key difference is the resources invested in the process. So growing typically involves adding resources at around the same rate as adding impact or revenue. So if you as an organization have increased reach to more people, more places, or more countries, but your operating costs have gone up to the same extent, you're probably growing rather than scaling. Scaling differs in that it involves adding impact at an exponential rate, while still adding resources at an incremental rate. So finding ways to have greater impact while still keeping the costs and resources low. So we have talked about scale. However, you may be asking yourselves, if scaling is not about growing, then how do you go about it? How do you reach scale? So at Spring Impact, we think of the different ways to scale impact as pathways to scale. When we think about pathways, we usually think of two main categories. So we have pathways to scale up solutions, which usually involve the widespread delivery of products, deliveries, and services and practices, or pathways to change the systems in which the problem actually exists. So they usually involve systems, society, and culture in order to embed change. And to sort of give you a flavor of what these may look like. So if you want to tackle a problem at scale by spreading solutions like yours, there are many different pathways you can use to do so. So some examples here are open sourcing. Open sourcing is when you make your solution available to others to implement by creating free and very easy to use resources for others to use. So videos, best practice toolkit, or anything like that. Training is pretty self-explanatory. It is usually when you would be training different organizations or kind of individuals to deliver or implement your solution. Accreditation is when others can receive an accreditation to be allowed to deliver your solution if they fulfill a specific criteria. social franchising is about packaging up a proven model and providing carefully selected partners support in order for them to be able to kind of run your venture and your solution in other places. Subcontracting is where other individuals or organizations are contracted to deliver your venture in their area. And finally, scaling through government delivery involves working towards the end goal of your solution being adapted by the government and being integrated into government systems. We also the second category I mentioned earlier are pathways to change systems. So this can look like influencing public policy, which usually involves changing the way a problem is addressed at policy level, changing or creating markets, which is using market forces to kind of change or create the market your problem is kind of faced in, and starting social movements to address a specific social problem. So these pathways in the second category have a particular emphasis on working with other actors within a system to change it in some way. So this was a very quick overview of some different scale pathways. This is, however, not an exhaustive list, and each organization's scale pathway is likely to look quite different. So you will notice, however, that pathways to scale rarely involve working alone. The key to a lot of them are the right partnerships and working in collaboration with other organizations and individuals. And during today's webinar, we're only able to kind of touch on these pathways. However, if you visit the toolkit on our website, you will find the kind of full scale pathways guide, which has all the details on every single pathway, including how it works, some examples of organizations who that have used these best practices and kind of anything like that. So if you are interested, I would definitely check that out. So with kind of so many options, you may be asking yourself, like, which one is right for me, and how do I go about finding that out? So we think of a few key considerations, which we think are really important for organizations to take into account when choosing their pathway to scale. One of them being the nature of the problem that you're trying to tackle. So will your solution need to be delivered on an ongoing basis, or will there no longer be any a need for it because the problem will be solved? So, for example, if your solution will need to be delivered continuously, you're probably going to have a big focus on sustainability. So how do you make it financially sustainable in the long run? However, if you know that your problem is going to be solved, this does not feel like a huge concern. Another key consideration is the actual nature of your solution. So depending on how complex your solution is, it may require different levels of control and quality management for it to be delivered effectively. So, for example, if your solution is quite complex and needs to be delivered in a very specific way for it to have impact, you may opt for a social franchising model where you are retaining quite a lot of control, a kind of monitoring and training and ongoing support. However, if you're trying to scale a certain approach or a kind of mindset that can be adapted to different contexts, you may go for a model like open sourcing, where you're putting your approach out there and kind of anyone can implement it, and it would still have impact. Another key consideration is the role that you're going to play in the system. It's really important to think about what you're best positioned to do. Is it that you have a really good network that you can leverage? Is it that you know your solution so well already and you have iterated over a kind of long time and you are best placed to kind of to offer support to other organizations implementing it? It is also important to keep in mind that you don't have to choose just one scale pathway. One scale pathway. You can choose a combination with of them, or different key things that you like about some of them to create sort of your own scale pathway. For example, if you would like to see your solution being implemented by government in the future, you may want to work with other partners first to help lower the cost of the delivery and build the evidence base that you need to then scale with government. So it's not sort of a one answer fits all. Given all of this, you may still have questions or hypotheses, such as, if I go for an open source model, will anyone actually use my solution? Or if you're going for a social franchising model, are there enough organizations to actually implement my model in their context? Which is why we encourage organizations to take a very lean approach. So rather than crafting a beautifully detailed design and expecting it to kind of work perfectly as planned, this approach involves identifying the biggest risks, then running experiments to test them as quickly as and as deeply as possible. This avoids this scenario where you spend a lot of time and resources to make up this perfect plan, and then when you actually go to implement it in the real world, it just does not work, and then you have a much bigger loss. So in the face of uncertainty, if you start small, you can learn, improve, and pivot so much quicker and kind of cheaper. So we do this through the build, measure, learn feedback loop. So with a potential pathway, you would form a hypothesis, build an experiment to kind of test that hypothesis, and then based on your learnings, you would be refining your hypothesis, pathway, or solution. So it's really important to remember that the most critical determinant of success is not the brilliance of your idea, but how quickly you can iterate through different ideas and kind of different hypotheses to kind of get to something that works for you. So that was a very quick introduction to pathways, but now I would like us to spend the bulk of this session by hearing from Amala and Someone about their journey on their pathway to kind of scale and some things they have learned. So to start us off, I would love to for you to share a bit more about your work, so and the problem that you are trying to solve and how you're thinking about scale. And I'll pass to Polly and Mia. I'll go to your slide.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dana, for that useful introduction. So at Amala, we believe that young people have the potential to change the world, and yet 5 million refugee adolescents and youth lack access to educational opportunities that prepare them to thrive. And so also with the world's refugee population primarily residing in low and medium income countries, they experience a lack of capacity in local education systems, discriminatory policies, and the need to earn income to support their families. And this means that refugee youth are prevented from accessing education, which can help them to improve their lives and meaningfully participate in society. And so Amala seeks to respond to that problem by providing transformative learning experiences for refugee youth. We have 2 primary programs. So the first is our high school diploma program. This is an alternative pathway for out-of-school refugee youth to be able to finish their secondary education. And it's typically run over a period of 15 months. And we employ a 21st century curriculum that focuses very much on the development of competencies that can be used both today and in the future to help to improve their lives in the world. And then we also have our Changemaker courses, which are non-formal learning courses that develop life skills and enable students to participate in society. So those are shorter programs. So that's what we do.
Thank you so much. That was super useful. Idrishri, I'll pass over to you to talk about things though.
Yes. So like in India, as per the resources, a significant number of children who do not have required foundational skills, which are the basis for all future learning. So without a basic, like strong foundational learning, children fall behind and they find it difficult to catch up, which like creates a self-perpetuating cycle where the weakest of the students even fall behind, and this also have a negative impact on their development, leading to higher dropouts and academic success. So this is where ThinkZone comes to the picture, where like we are a social enterprise working towards improving the learning outcomes of children in low resource communities. So primarily, currently we are working in Odisha, like one of the state in India. So we utilize our second screen, please. Yeah. We utilize our a offline enabled mobile application solution for training and equipping community educators. So our data-driven technology and research-based methodology on learning community educators support children in their community who are in the age group of 3 to 10 years old. And second screen, please. Yeah. So we also use SMS, voice SMS and WhatsApp-based technology to provide free interactive learning resources to families, and we work with communities. So we have created a network of communities who mentor, promote, provide guidance and support to parents to assist children at home. So yes, so our goal is like we are now planning to reach like 1 million of children to provide them the best learning opportunity possible. So yeah, thank you.
That's super useful. Thank you so much. And it has a super ambitious goal, which is amazing. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so you can see everyone more clearly. Amazing. So thank you for that introduction. What I would love to kind of hear next from both of you is a bit more on the journey you have been on with your pathway to scale. So how did you think about it in the beginning? Has anything changed, and where are you at the moment? Polly and Mia, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Happy to go first. So yeah, I mean, so Amala's been running for the past 5 years, and we've so far reached about 2,000 students. And I think we've done a lot of sort of lean experimentation that you were referring to earlier. And we're now just at the beginning of our scaling journey. And we've set what we think is an ambitious goal that by 2033, 10% of refugee youth living in low and middle income countries will be engaging in educational opportunities that enable them to both finish their high school education, but also improve their lives in a way that also enables them to make positive change in their communities, but also in the world. And when we say 10%, we estimate there's about 5 million refugee youth, so it's about 500,000. And so we've been sort of testing our scaling model or our pathway to scale sort of over the last 5 years in different ways. And sort of with a lot of the considerations in mind that you were speaking about earlier, we're going to be adopting a social franchising model where we'd like to be we want to authorize partners to run the programs that we have developed. And we have sort of trialed that a little bit, which Polly will speak a bit more about. But as she said, there might not be one pathway to scale. And while the social franchising option will be sort of our starting point, we may be looking at working with governments in the future as well. And so in terms of the franchising model, so up until now, we've been running the programs ourselves primarily. But we are looking to then authorize different types of partners. It could be refugee-led, community-based organizations, national, local organizations, and even large international organizations to run the programs.
Mm. And we have been doing this for our Changemaker courses, so our shorter programs, for the past 3 years. And we have seen the impact of that in terms of, being able to, I think we have multiplied by 6 our growth since 2 years ago, and in particular last year. So I think we can see that the enabling the right partners to run the programs will be an effective way to scale, but also to maintain the impact that the programs have as well. And what we want to do is to use the knowledge that we've gained through doing this for our shorter programs to also authorize partners to be able to run our longer diploma program as well. I think the social franchising model works quite well for us because the programs are designed to be run in quite a specific way. And so we provide training for partners. We provide also an IT platform that learners use for part of their learning as well. And so it's not hugely complicated, but there is some complexity to it. And so that's why, kind of thinking about authorization frameworks and continued support are all components of our model, basically. So social franchising works in that sense.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so amazing to hear that you're still staying quite lean and are not very sort of set on your pathway to scale, and you're willing to kind of change it up depending on kind of how things go. And that's amazing. Thank you. And Idishri, did you want to share your experience so far?
Yes, so basically we started from a small geography and currently covering 6 districts, and which accounts more than 50,000 children and parents. So obviously this process we have learned a lot and improvised the model. And yes, there are so many external and internal factors in this journey of scaling. But when we started with a B2C model. But when we try to scale it, we realize that this is not the way to go because of the geography we are targeting, and obviously the socioeconomic background. So we then converted to B2B2C model, and this has helped us sustain and grow. But looking at a scale and sustainability, so I think government is the critical partner. So we are now trying to aligning our solution with their needs of the government, because we think that's the people organization working like us who are working with the low income communities. So this is the only way to scale and sustain. So I think yes. So partnering for finance is obviously the key, and we're always trying to improvise our model. And rightly said, it's not the only way. B2B2C model worked for us, but that may not be work for anyone. So Yes, there are, and still we are now, still also we are trying to, find out different other models and learn from it. And yes, I think, yeah, and the journey has been very beautiful, very like learning. It has a lot of learning. We learned a lot, and now we are looking to expand our reach to more geography with keeping the impact in view. But however, I think we must be mindful about the challenges we must face. And yes.
Thank you so much. And it's so interesting how you're saying that at the moment you're focusing on kind of partnerships, but you're still keeping the kind of government as your sort of your central partner in view for the future, and building for that now to make sure that that has the kind of best chance to happen in the future. That's amazing. Thank you. And I know you mentioned kind of challenges, but I would like to kind of hear what have been your top considerations when choosing a pathway to scale. What are the key things that swayed you one way or another, and that were the key things in your mind? Would anyone like to go first?
Yes, so like when it comes to scale, our top consideration may be accessibility, architecture, resource and cost, like what we fondly call it as ARC. So by accessibility, I mean like the solution should be accessed by everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic background and their geography. So like our solution is designed in such a way that it can be accessed by everyone. By architecture, I mean the structure of the innovation, our solution. So our solution does not include any complex, system or structure that would be difficult for the users to understand. So we have kept our solution very simple to understand, like that can be implemented by everyone. So we have developed like SOPs like in vernacular language so that it would be easy to understand. And we work with a low tech front end and a very sophisticated back end. So what helps us to also to track and monitor and customize accordingly. Third is resources. For us, resources means the pedagogy and the technology. So which has been contextualized and developed by obviously the extensive use of like design thinking process. And we always keep the innovation low touch model. Cost, and yes, it's always be a top consideration, and it would be because I believe a solution should be cost effective in deploying and implementing. So I think yes, these four are the major things that we kept in consideration. We consider it while thinking about scaling. But yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's always about quality, the sustainability of the things, because scale is always obviously like how Dana said, it's not about the numbers, it's the positive impact you are creating, and it's a meaningful impact. And yes.
Thank you so much. That is very interesting. And I know when we were talking earlier, you mentioned as well, like the accessibility factor also leading you to partner with the grassroots organizations who have a much higher reach in the areas that you're targeting as well, and keeping it as simple kind of to implement as possible. So I thought that was amazing. Thank you so much. And Polly and Mia?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we've sort of, I think, discussed this question basically from day one, what pathway to choose. And I think because we work in upper secondary education, it's been really important to us that our model and the education we deliver is relevant and engaging for students no matter where they access the education. So it's been important to find a pathway to scale that would give partners some degree of control, freedom and flexibility to implement the solution in a way that makes sense for them and the students that they serve. At the same time, because it's education and and upper secondary education in particular, where we're looking at, sending students off to university, etc. afterwards, it's important that there's a high degree of trust, and also that we have a large degree of accountability to the students that they will reach the learning outcomes that our promotional materials, etc., says that they will. And that's why the social franchising model seemed like a good, I guess, sort of middle ground, where we have some degree of control, but there's still quite a lot of flexibility and freedom for the partners that we work with. And I think also in terms of the financial sustainability piece, I'm not going to lie, I don't think we've solved that completely yet. Because we work in a humanitarian setting, I think there's more sort of restrictions around the finance piece than perhaps in other settings. Financing generally is less sustainable. Funding shifts from one crisis to the next, even though maybe the crisis hasn't been resolved. So the social franchising option gives us, we believe, more flexibility to find to solve the funding question perhaps differently in each situation. And maybe sort of speaking to the challenge, like we want to authorize a lot of small local refugee-led organizations because we believe that they're some of the best people to solve the problem, but they do not very often have access to the kind of funding that they would need, and so we need to work collaboratively with them to solve that, and sometimes that means, say, finding creative solutions as well. So looking at our students will usually not be able to pay to attend Amala's programs, but sometimes maybe they will be able to contribute in kind. So maybe they'll pay for their own transport or bring their own refreshments instead of us providing it, and actually that those things may reduce the overall cost of the solution so much that we're able to be more competitive for instance, government funding. So yeah, lots of kind of considerations around there, and needing to be creative as well, and not be too fixed on one way.
So thank you. So, some really important points there, especially to do with kind of the control, the balance of retaining control, but also kind of letting go enough for it to be adaptable and still kind of financially affordable to kind of implement. So thank you for that. And the last question I have for you both, but before we can go on to kind of audience questions, is what are some challenges that you encountered on this journey, and what are some of the tools, mindsets, or approaches that you have used in order to kind of to overcome them? Ishri, do you want to go next? You want to go first?
I think, like, in terms of challenges, there are numerous. Like, we cannot count. Maybe there are numerous challenges. Each and every day we face challenges. But yes, so considering the priority of needs, food, shelter, clothing comes first. So when the first physiological needs are not met, people cannot think about education or employment. So as we work in low-income communities, families have a different viewpoint on what quality education means. So, like, an important aspect of our solution entails that constantly communicating with the families about what quality education truly means. And this has been a bigger challenge because each and every time we go, then they just simply say, like, okay, we don't have a like 2-day meal to eat, so what we'll do about education? Because education is like a long time investment. It doesn't give you short term outputs. So now what we did, like, we adapted a different approach. So we adapted a play in school or a community workshops. So this play, like the role plays, the plays are performed by the children, like, which aim at creating awareness about investing in education, or what is the importance of education, being them educated, what would be their benefits. And the community workshops are conducted by someone from their own community. So when someone from their own people talks about, like, what is meant by education, or why would we invest in education, why would we be educated, and they started listening and showing interest. It has helped us, like, increase their involvement in education and solve obviously 20% of our problem. Another is like obviously the partnership thing, but when like we are seeking to partner with the government in financial terms and replicate the whole model across the state. So like if you'll ask me honestly, we have maybe the solution can be implemented across the state, but it's the funding, the financial thing that is stopping us like to do so, and obviously it comes to bandwidth, and yes, it's a so but like we started reaching out to, so like to solve this issue, like we started reaching out to local level and educational institutions and grassroots level organizations who helped us reach more, and expand our reach more children and parents. So empowering the appropriate stakeholders with the required, technical know-how helped us in scaling our solution faster. And our innovation, our solution is not hindered by due to the inadequacy of fund allocation by the government. So yes, but yeah, there are two. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I feel like that that kind of partnership one that you mentioned feels like one organizations quite often face, where you're trying to establish the right partnerships with the right sort of things in place to set them up for success. But Polly and Mia, do you have anything else to kind of add here?
We shared a lot of those challenges also kind of working in the education space. I think so much stuff that Itchisri said is true for us as well, in terms of the partnerships, the funding, and the kind of the prioritization often of food, shelter, water, and also in humanitarian situations. I guess we wanted to just say a few words about challenges around kind of getting your head around scale, and this kind of process of working through it. I think one challenge that we've seen is that the word scale can mean such vastly different things to different people. For some people, it means, more than 10,000. For other people, it's more than 1 million. Like, where do you start? Trying to kind of iterate that your ambition for scale. And I think work that we've done with Spring Impact has been really useful for this, and kind of Spring's definition of, scale means reaching at least 1% of your target population, obviously ideally more. But how do you work out what that 1% is and work up from there and see, okay, what would that cost to do that with our current model, current assumptions? So that's enabled us to that's given us a real benchmark to think about, okay, what does scale look like, and kind of work back from as well. I think the other kind of mental barrier is, I think there's a lot of thinking out there that there is just one silver bullet to scale, and that comes back to there's going to be one specific pathway or one specific way, and I think scaling, what we're finding is about consistently overcoming barriers to scale. Probably the biggest barrier is always going to be financial, so that's something that you're going to need to look at as a nonprofit. Where does the money come from? Because there isn't simply not enough money within philanthropy for organizations to scale, right? So looking at those kind of alternative ways, one of the things we've been looking at is a cross subsidization model, where partners who cannot afford to pay, for example, or areas where we might want to work where there isn't money, where we can raise our own funds, for example, through schools becoming members of Amala and having access to our curriculum and being able to put that kind of surplus towards those kind of partners and harder situations as well. So yeah, I think there's no silver bullet. You've got to work through different things, and I think the other thing is, we maybe had quite a few assumptions about what scaling could look like for us, and we've learned that it's really important to test those assumptions and see if they're actually viable, and that can involve some quite difficult conversations, some quite challenging conversations. Indeed it should. One of the experiments that we recently did was just asking 5 potential partners potential organizations, would you pay for this? Where is the money going to come from? What would this look like? What value does this hold for you? But you need to, and those can be difficult conversations to have, and it might be tempting to delay those conversations until you have the perfect solution. But doing that as soon as possible, as soon as you can. If in another world we'd have done it sooner, but having those conversations can enable you to clarify what opportunities are goers, where there are challenges, where you need to look more at some of the riskier assumptions that you're making with your model. So yeah, would you like to say anything else?
Sums it up.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. And again, reflects sort of the usual challenges that organizations go through so well. Thank you so much. I will post before we kind of go to the Q&A bit, and make sure that everyone in the webinar gets a chance to kind of ask any questions. I know that there was some questions in the chat about our toolkit at Spring, and like how we can use that and learn more about scale pathways. So I've posted that in the kind of chat if anyone wants to kind of access that. But yeah, did anyone have kind of any questions in the chat? And I know we already had some submitted questions, so I will start with that. But please do add any in the chat. And the first question, I think, is for you, Polly and Mia, about how do you determine your franchise fees, and do you adjust them based on the situation or the franchise, or how do you go about it?
Yeah, thank you for that excellent question, and certainly something we've grappled with and is probably still grappling with. And yeah, so we are in the process of determining the franchise fees, and I think it's looking at what's the cost, so whatever fee we have, we would want to have our costs covered. But then as you're also alluding to, the contexts are vastly different, and so we would need to adjust them based on probably the size of the organization and the kind of funding they have access to, because as we were saying before, we might be looking at partnering both with, let's say, local national organizations that would have access to funding, but also refugee-led organizations that typically have very little or no access to that kind of funding. So we would have to adjust the fees, but also find different funding models. So that's where the cross-subsidization model comes in that Polly was talking about before, that in some cases maybe that fee would be none, or it would have to be covered by a MALA.
Amazing, thank you. Cool. That was really good and comprehensive answer. One more question I have for you three is, what is maybe one or two trade-offs that you feel like you are consciously making because of the kind of benefits that it brings when it comes to your scale pathway?
I'm happy to start. So I think with the social franchising kind of model, even though the idea is that you need to kind of have oversight of the quality control, that kind of thing, we are giving up some control of our core product, and that can be difficult. And so we need to decide what are the things that are core to what we want to see, and what are the things that can be flexible as well. So yeah, giving up control of core product, trust of the organization and alignment between us and the organization's kind of mission and values is a really important component of that. And so I think that's why in a lot of these kind of models, that initial authorization is really, really important. Like, is the organization truly committed to impact in the way that we are? How do we tell that? All of those kind of things. And then I think the other thing is just kind of working with, it's really important to us to be able to work with smaller organizations and refugee-led organizations. Those organizations may well need a greater level of support than other organizations. And so there is something to, having a slower growth, perhaps initially, than working with only larger organizations. But we definitely think that that's worth it because of the kind of the impact piece and the impact that we believe these kind of organizations can make.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
So currently we are working in multi-partnership model wherein our financial partners are like donors, foundations, corporations, and but like working in a low income community, so the government is a critical partners, like while thinking about the scale, and it will take a lot of follow-ups and patience to do that, to achieve that. But yeah, like I think that's the thing comes in where we think like partnering, like like the partnership approach, where the private money helps us to unlock the government money after showing our impact to the public stakeholders. So as an like for us, it's the partnership with the government, like thinking about the scale. And I think another thing is like enabling the right stakeholders. By stakeholders here, I mean the parents, because parents are they played a very critical role in children's development. So enabling like empowering them with the like required know-how, so they would do better. But yes, it would take it's a long shot, but we're hoping that we would do it. But yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think that's all the kind of time that we had for questions. But I wanted to say a big thank you to you, Theo. That was incredible, and I'm sure that that was really useful for people who are thinking about starting their own journey, and that there's no kind of one right answer, but it's just about like trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and just giving it a try. But yeah, we hope this webinar has given you a bit of a flavor when it comes to different pathways to scale and different ways to think about scaling your solution. Please do drop us an email at Spring if you've got kind of any questions, and do check the toolkit and choosing the pathway tool on our website. We're just going to give you a lot more information that I could ever cover in about 15 minutes. But yes, I was going to pass back to Rashid. I know you wanted to do a quick outro.
Yeah, okay. Amazing session. I really loved it, and I mean, when you were having this conversation, you just felt like creating a lot of collaborations. People here can just start doing things in the environment and then partnering with you guys and making sure, like the 1 million the demographics that you want to capture, Tishri. I mean, collaborations can actually go a lot more in achieving this thing in a short period of time. So everyone, thank you. So for those that are not part of Catalyst, you can join Catalyst. You can start up a collaborations, a project, and meet up with other social entrepreneurs across the globe, and come up with something that will be meaningful, useful, that the world is going to benefit from, and then that are very, very scalable and then sustainable. So with that, you can, I mean, have a lot of things to make available and then achieve results. So for those of you that want to join, this is our social media handles you can follow. And also we are having, we want you to nominate organizations for some awards. And so I'm going to share it with you now. So we are giving some awards later this year, and an organization interested in nominating themselves, other organizations, and the likes can do that. So yeah, we have, we also have, okay, so we are nominating, we want you to nominate people for different awards, for Catalyst 2030 awards, and for systemic change. And then we have a market, the Catalyst market. What we do there is we market and sell products that sustainable products that anybody can just get from online. For business commitment badge, you can go to the website catalyst2030.info/CBC. And for social change innovators, this is the website. You can come up with different ideas, partner with people, collaborate, and share your success stories, be a member of Catalyst, and then enjoy the resources that Catalyst has to share. It's a lot of resources that Catalyst can share with you. And yes, this is what Catalyst is about. Catalyst is a global movement of social innovators working collaboratively. We work with government, businesses, and others change agents. So go to Catalyst 2030, and you get more information, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So thank you all for joining this session. I've shared some links on the chat. We have so many other sessions. We have about more than 250 sessions going on for this Catalyst Change Week. So you can go to the website, you can join any event or any sessions that you want to partake in. It's all available there. So thank you, everyone, once again.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a very nice rest of your day.